Hi, my name is Rabbi Sam Frankel, and this is going to be the final segment of a five-part series that I've been doing on behalf of Congregation Beth Aaron on the topic of Tefila and mindfulness. As I conclude, I'm going to do brief summaries, and then I want to talk to you about final message on Tefila and on mindfulness. Firstly, I gave thanks to Rabbi Rothwax, Alan Friedman, and Dr. Feit for giving me information that was significant in preparing. I also dedicated this to three neshamot, and I need to make a correction on one of them. One of them was Rabbi Yosef Shmuel Shmelka ben Yitzchak. The other neshama is Kalman ben Chaim. And the third is Ziska ben Yaakov. As I mentioned, each of these were three people who had very great love for Tefillah and were very sincere people. And I believe there's a lot we need to learn about Tefillah. And this is the final segment and message that I would like to give. The title that was selected was, Why do we repeat the Shemoneh Esrei? What's the purpose of Chazaras Hashatz? Didn't Hashem hear us the first time? And I also titled it, How Mindfulness Impacts Our Prayer and How Praying Impacts Our Mind. And now more than ever, we need to be able to slow down. And I think HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us a clear message on what we need to be doing this time in order to be able to slow down, take a different perspective, and to be able to focus more on Tefillah. I've been very surprised how a lot of people daven very meaningfully, but don't really understand Tefillah. And I want to focus on a few things today as we conclude this discussion. We noted that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us very much. The role of Tefillah in our lives, in everybody's life right now, prayer is very significant in people's lives now more than ever. As Jews, prayer plays a significant role. It goes back in history. We spoke about the connection to the Avot, to many of our women who prayed individually. And as it moved through time, it became communal as we started developing a connection as a people, had the Beit HaMikdash, and we had representatives as a shaliach for the tzibor known as the Kohen. He would take korbanot, communal sacrifices, holiday sacrifices, and individual sacrifices. And when the Beit HaMikdash became destroyed, our shul, each one of the shuls now, becomes like an individual Beit HaMikdash. And now we have a combination of being able to daven as a yochid, as an individual, and then daven as a tzibor, biyachad. And it's very interesting to notice the difference between the words yachid and yachad. The only difference is that little yud, that little ego that separates us as an individual and enables us to unite together to be yachad. And the Shemoneh Esrei is the central part of the avoda where that stands out. What we do is we all stand individually and we daven. We say the tefillah. But then after we're each finished, even though it's said again, as I mentioned, in plural, we also now repeat the Shemoneh Esrei. And we now have a chazan. Now, why do we do that? Didn't Hashem hear us the first time? Yeah, he heard us. But the role of the chazan is one not only as an individual person doing it. When we daven as a yochid, Rav Soloveitchik mentioned that that's a davening of a tefillah b'tzibur. But when the chazan is doing chazaras hashatz, then all of a sudden that's now tefillat hatzibur. And we need to focus on that davening for two reasons. Number one, it's a confirmation of our own tefillah. And even more importantly, it's about the tzibur. One of the biggest struggles I'm finding in our society now is the difference between individual rights and needs and the needs of society. And what's been happening so far is when we have that critical balance, we've been erring on the side of the individual. I'll give you just two big examples. The whole thing that goes on about guns in this country. We do have a right, But when safety comes in of the society, does the individual right outweigh the need for social safety? The coronavirus. There were kids down in Florida during their spring break. We have a right to be able to enjoy our break. This is our time. I can't believe what I heard some kids say. Does not social safety come first? Tefila and Chazaras Hashatz is our place where we make a decision between my own personal needs and the needs for the community. As I mentioned earlier, one thing that we're doing differently now is we're in seclusion with davening. Besides everything that we're missing, the one thing that we're gaining is saying the phrase Kel Melech Ne'eman. That God is the king and trustworthy. God is active in our lives every day. One of the segments I spoke about God being Hamachadesh Betuvo B'chol Yom Tamid. I believe God looked down at this world and he had to tweak something. He sent everybody back to our rooms so that when we come back out and when we rejoin as a tzibur, we're going to take the yachad more importantly than we take the yochid. We all do have rights, and yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to love ourselves. V'yohavto l'reacha kamocha. We have to love our neighbors like we love ourselves. But when we have a balance and we shift between my individual needs and the needs of the tzibur and the needs of the congregation, we have to recognize that the congregation takes priority. You know, the word that we're saying so much now, Kel Melech Ne'eman, I noticed in Shemoneh Esrei, that word Ne'eman comes up in two contexts. One right before we say the Kedusha part, V'ne'eman ato l'hachayos meisim. We talk about it in connection to death, the bringing back the dead. And the one other time it's mentioned is when we say it in Refa'enu, Rofei Ne'eman v'rachamon oto. We recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Rofei Ne'eman. He's the faithful healer. We need now more than ever to have faith, but faith is a two-way street. When we say in Moda'ani, which I mentioned, the connection Yiras Hashem and Chochmah, we also mention in there V'ne'eman. We talk about Moda'ani Lifanecha Melechai V'kayim Shehechazarto Bi Nishmasli Bechem Lo Rabba Emuna Secha. Emuna, faith, Ne'emanus, goes both ways. Is it Rabba Emuna Secha? We have to be able to demonstrate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we got this message, that we believe in the importance of community, and that's going to be the priority. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that, then hopefully we'll be able to come out of seclusion, we'll be able to rejoin again as a tzibur, and at that point, we'll be able to recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hand in everything. I want to end with two more points. There are 3 times in davening between Baruch Hu and the end of davening where we say something referencing to Kedusha. The Kedusha that we say as a tzibur, which we haven't been able to do because we've been in seclusion. But there are 2 other Kedushas that we say. One before that where we talk about the angels. And I'd like to help us learn from the angels because we have a lot to learn from them. Now, firstly, I recognize angels are very different than people. They don't have bechira. They don't have free will. And the free will is a challenge. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates angels as individuals. Sometimes he puts them together in teams, but each one of them recognizes the importance of themselves and every other angel. And they're there to do one thing, to bring sanctity to the name of God, just like us. But this is what we have to learn from them. V'chulam mekablim aleihem ol malchus shamayim. We say that all these angels, all of them, they accept upon themselves this ol malchus shamayim, this burden. We recognize serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, doing avodah, takes work, takes time, takes thought. When the Tefila becomes a tircha de tzibur, boy, do we have a problem. When we look at our watches more than we look at the siddur. Look at the angels. What do? They take this Ol Malchus Shamayim, and what do? V'chulam mekablim aleim Ol Malchus Shamayim, zeh mizeh, v'nosnim reshuz zeh lo zeh. Now look at those phrases. What are they taking and what are they giving? They're taking from each other, not their money. They're taking from each other the burden. And what are they giving to each other? Not sorrows, not anxiety. They're giving each other reshus, permission. Permission to be. You know, here we are. We're supposed to be a light to the nation and to teach each other how to live in harmony and in peace. But we find every reason why to argue with each other. And sometimes we argue over things that are midorabanan, and we're over on averos that are midoraisa. That's crazy. We have to be able to give permission to each other to be, like the angels do. Nostim reshus zeh lo zeh. Why? Lahakdish liyotzram. Benachas ruach. Can you imagine if we can act and learn from the angels? To be able to give to each other the permission to be? You know, we have this concept that because I work so hard and I've learned so much and I'm doing something in a certain way and I know I'm right, and I look at you and you're doing it differently, does that mean that you're wrong? I don't think so. If we live like the angels and we look at each other, and yeah, we have bechira. We have to choose to use our bechira to bring each other together and not to alienate each other. Not to look at each other and find why we're different and that makes us worse, but to look at each other and go, wow, you're so different, you're so beautiful. Let's embrace each other like the angels do. Let's learn what it means to be lahakdish liyotzlam benachas ruach. To be able to be sanctifying the name of God with pleasantness and with calmness. I want to end with one bracha. I've been looking for a long time to be able to have a bracha, birchat habayis, that we need now more than ever. And I was surprised to see how many different versions of birchat habayis. But this is the one that I'm selecting to be able to read to you. And I want you to listen to the words as I read it, and I'll translate them in English and give a little meaning to the way I think this is. This birchas habayis, this blessing for our home, and as we're in our homes now, and we're going to be here for a while, bezeh hashar, in this gate, lo yavot sa'ar, there should come no pain, sorrow. Bezot hadira, in this room, this residence, lo tavot tzara, may it be God's will that there should not come any suffering, no pain. Bezot hadeles, through this door, lo tavo bahelet, there shouldn't come any rush, urgency, fear, scariness. Boy, we need mindfulness now more than ever. We talk about living in the moment, and I've spoken about on purpose in the moment. I want to talk for one more second about non-judgmentally, because that's what we need now. There's one Dayan in this world, there's one judge, and that's God. We need to live together non-judgmentally so that we can be mechadesh betuvo b'chol yom tamid, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, so that we can renew each day and look at each other with hope, with kafsechus, with giving each other the benefit of the doubt rather than suspecting each other for doing wrong. B'zot hamachlaka, in this classroom, lo tavo machloket. This is a stressful time. I can't tell you how many calls I'm getting now from people who, being in confinement now in seclusion, is a challenge more than ever. They can't wait to leave and get back out of there, because being together with spouse, with children, with parents, it's a struggle. But bezot hamachlaka lo tavo machloket. May we be able to learn to live in harmony with each other. Use this time to work things out. Use this time to open the siddur, so when we come back as a tzibor, we actually understand what the words mean, so we're not rushing to get out. where we're putting the time and the thought necessary into it. B'zeh hamakom tihiyeh bracha v'shalom. May there be a bracha, blessing and peace. And I want to conclude with the following observation. We end we end Kaddish, and we end Shemoneh Esrei with the same phrase. And I noticed the following. Being mindful, I realized that what are we saying? Oseh shalom bimromav, as I take my 3 steps back and I move away from the Shekhinah, and I look and I close my eyes and I recognize the following. Where's peace going to come from? Oseh shalom bimromav is going to bring peace from above. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu recognizes that in all this time, from Cain and Hevel all the way till now, if we haven't been able to figure out how to do it, he's going to bring it. And the way he's bringing it as the first message is go back to your rooms. Reflect, think it over. So when you come back out, you appreciate being at Sibur. We recognize what it means to be able to be with each other with love. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. And may we finally be able to say, V'yimru, Amen. I wish everybody health and a Chag Kosher v'Sameach.